Good evening to all our viewers. Welcome to the 10th episode of the Alberta First Pension Plan online town hall. Every second week, we present and discuss the benefits of an Alberta pension plan. My name is Kerry Lambert, and I'm a host of the Chris and Kerry Show, and I'll be your host for this evening's town hall. Alberta's First Pension Plan is a grassroots initiative of concerned Albertans who want to educate all Albertans on the benefit of an Alberta pension plan. Our goal is to collect 270,000 names and contact information. And once that is done, we'll begin to collect signatures within a 90-day window and present it to our Alberta provincial government and initiate a referendum on an Alberta pension plan. And then you, Albertans, get to choose whether you want an Alberta pension plan or not. We are not affiliated with any political party or lobbyist group. We rely on donations and volunteers to get our message of an Alberta pension plan out to everyone. Please consider volunteering and donating. You can go to our website and find out more, and that is at albertafirstpension.ca. And likewise, you can send us an email at info@albertafirstpension.ca. There you go. I had that backwards. That's all right. Lots of things to talk about. This is technically our last in the series. We were hoping to do 10 of these, and again, we started this back in June, going until now. It was strategic so that we would have all of our ducks in a row going ahead to the UCP AGM, which takes place this weekend, and making sure that we had enough signatures, we had enough materials, we had tables set up at the AGM, et cetera, had gone through all these meetings. And the big thing that we were hoping for is that we would be able to get the final number from the LifeWorks. And I'm kind of jumping ahead. I'm just going to say that tonight's topic is actually a summary of the Alberta Pension Plan, and that we're still waiting for the CPP asset transfer amount from the federal government. So as a quick synopsis, in response to a recommendation by the Fair Deal panel, the Alberta Treasury Board and Finance contracted LifeWorks to prepare an analysis of the costs, benefits, and structure of a potential Alberta pension plan. When the LifeWorks report came out in August of 2023, that calculation was that the Canadian pension plan asset transfer amount would be as high as $334 billion. That number was to be looked into and reported back to Alberta in 2024. Well, it's now almost November 2024, and we're still waiting. And during this series on the Alberta Pension Plan, we've discussed that even if we didn't get any money back from the CPP, we'd still be better off with our own Alberta Pension Plan, since right now we over-contribute between $3 and $5 billion each year, which is more than enough to start and continue our own pension plan. I was hoping that by the time we got to the 10th episode of this, we would have that number and we'd be able to at least talk a little bit more about what would be happening in the future. Well, guess what? I think we're going to have an episode 11, maybe in an episode 12 at some point. We're not going to schedule it for every second week because we're just going to wait on that. And so tonight, we're going to be summarizing a lot of what we talked about over the previous 9 episodes with our pension experts. We have Tanner Hnidey, who's an economist, and Mitch Sylvestre, who is head of the Alberta First Pension Plan Group. This is a live town hall, so we encourage you to ask questions and make comments throughout this presentation. Just put 3 question marks before your questions so it'll be flagged. And if you can, share this episode, please. And with that, I'm going to bring on Tanner and Mitch. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing quite well. It's as I did my little pre-ramble, it's almost frustrating dealing with government stuff, isn't it? You're waiting for them to get back to us, and they just don't. Is that strategic, Mitch?
Well, you know what? We actually knew that number was never coming out.
Yes, yeah.
And it's got to be closer to 365 billion now.
You're right, because that was in 2023, August 2023.
So seriously, I just think that number's never coming out because it's so big. They know full well that they're not going to give us that number. Everybody on this call and on this panel understands how big that number is and how important it is to Alberta. Yeah. So for sure they're not going to send us that number, because then after that it becomes an absolute. It is a slam dunk no-brainer anyways, but once that's in play, it's going to really be that.
Yeah. And again, just to kind of paraphrase some of the summary of the episodes that we've done, just so that people have an idea, again, we've been doing this since June 25th. So we're into week number, well, essentially 10 episodes. So week number 18, I guess, is what it is that we've done. So we've talked about what happens to my CPP contributions if Alberta stays in an Alberta pension plan. We've talked about the actual LifeWorks number. Maybe we can just briefly gloss through that again, too. We've talked about, can we trust the government to get this done? We've talked about what are some of the other benefits of an Alberta pension plan other than just financial. We've talked about some of the comments and questions from around Alberta and Canada. We've looked into some social media posts, some video posts, and then essentially we even talked about our own donations, what we actually need to get this thing done. We're going to get into that a little bit more into there too, and again, we finalized the last couple episodes was on what the media has been portraying us, as well as social media, to say that no, this will never happen. Just why don't you get it over with? Pull the plug on it. This is not going to happen. And so we've gone through a lot of territory, and again, for our viewers that maybe have just kind of shown up in the last couple episodes, I do encourage you to go and watch the series right from the get-go. At least it's a logical progression with questions that we've seen people ask at the meetings that we have had all through this entire year. We've had Mitch has done probably 70 or 80 meetings, if not more. I know Tanner's probably at least done 50. And I've done probably a good 20 anyways, all across the province. So it's not like we're just making these numbers up and talking about it in a bubble. We're talking to Albertans. We're getting information sent to us via the website. And again, I just want to reiterate some of the stuff on the website too. Even though this is technically the last on-air town hall that we're doing, at least until we get this number, this website will be updated constantly. So there's still lots of stuff that's on here. We have, again, if you haven't signed up, please sign up, or at least send a message to your friends, your family, to just click on the sign up now. Go to albertafirstpension.ca and go and click on that. We have tons of links on here, and all this material is great. You could actually go through this, and this is the link to the Alberta government website on the Alberta Pension Plan to go through a lot of this stuff. We've got links on all the reports. We've got stuff that's shown up in the news. This will be updated as well. But the other thing I do want to point out to people is that anybody that's watching and whether or not you agree or not, I'm assuming most people that are watching do agree, you can always be our own advocates or your very own advocate for an Alberta First Pension Plan. We have a whole section on printouts here, and you can go and you can get the sign-up form on your own. You can print out more handouts here. We've got another one that we just worked on. These are the ones that are going to be handing out at the UCP AGM. Lots of materials on this, and I know Tanner's even done up one of these. Maybe we'll even touch on some of this. The Alberta Pension Plan that Tanner did up, APP versus CPP, and again, lots of other materials. And I really do want to stress that is a great resource for anybody to come and take a look at, and to be able to. Again, to show what amount of work that we've been putting into to educate Albertans on this. And one of the reasons why is because we have not received a dime from the Alberta government in order to do this. Mitch, is there any reason why we have not received any money from the government in order to do this?
Well, they spent millions of dollars trying to get this started.
Yes.
None of it came our way.
Yeah.
I think I can answer that. Why I really don't think that the federal government wants this to go.
Yeah.
I really believe that there may have been some conversations. I'm not sure of that, but I'm sure that there's conversations between the provincial and the federal government, that right now they would like to delay this till after the federal election to see if Poilievre gets in. In my mind, I think that Mr. Poilievre doesn't want this. I don't think his position is any different than Mr. Trudeau's position. I don't think he wants Alberta to have a $335 billion asset. So, I mean, he's the government. He would be the leader of the country, not the leader of Alberta. So that begs to, why is our government not pushing harder for it? Well, I can't answer that, but I can say that they haven't helped us. Just saying, they've allowed us to do it. Not that we need permission, but because we think it's a good deal. But the whole thing is that they haven't helped us. They want us to raise our own money. They want us to do all that, which we've been managed to do, but we've been on a shoestring budget. There's no question about that.
So, Mitch, I'm going to ask you. So, we started off with a budget. I'm going to say between $20,000 and $30,000. I don't know exactly what the number was, but we have about that same number of people signed up. So let's say it's about $1 per contact, and in the end, right? So it equates that if it was $30,000, we have about 30,000 contact information. So using that and extrapolating that, we need roughly $270,000 more to reach another 270,000 people.
Well, yes and no. I think if we got that money all at once, half of that would probably do it. But if we're going to spread it out over a year or two, we have monthly expenses, and so that we can eliminate if we got that money at once. I think we're working on about 30 or 40 cents, 50 cents a signature, basically, is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's and when you look at that, this is like any kind of political movement, right? There's the education part involved. There's getting the word out and then getting people involved, right? And we've been trying to do this right from the get-go, and Tanner's been instrumental in terms of getting out and doing the meetings. He's been doing meetings that aren't officially under the Pension Alberta or a pension plan umbrella as well. Tanner, did you want to mention any of those? Or
oh, sure, even independent meetings that I speak at or town halls, people will often talk about what does Alberta need to do, or ask what does Alberta need to do, or other provinces by and large, to encourage more freedom apart from the federal government. And we always talk about the pension's a good start, or at least it's a constituent branch of becoming more independent.
And so I'm just going to jump a little bit backwards here in terms of the math, because we have that LifeWorks number, the $334 billion. We've briefly actually not even briefly, have discussed where that number has come from. Tanner, do you want to maybe just do a quick 2 minutes synopsis on how that number came to be through Ottawa or through Ontario, etc.?
Sure, that's a good question. 2 minute synopsis. Well, since the mid-'60s, every province in the country except for Quebec has paid into the Canadian Pension Plan. Makes sense, And this pension plan is what's called a pay-as-you-go system, which means that as much money as the pension takes in every year, it basically sends all of it out. Not quite all of it, but most of it out. Now, this is especially true for certain provinces, particularly in the east in the country, in which not only do they receive back everything they put into the pension plan year after year, because they're an older population, they actually receive back more than what they put into the pension plan year after year. Again, it's just a consequence of their demographic. Now, the same is not true for Alberta. Alberta's in a different position and have been almost every year since the CPP's inception. There's a string of years in the 90s where this wasn't the case, but for almost the whole of the CPP's history in Alberta, we have put in more money to the CPP than what our seniors have received back year after year after year. And this also is a consequence of demographics, right? It's a consequence of our working more, it's a consequence of our higher incomes, and it's a consequence of our younger populations. Great. Well, over time, the CPP has taken that extra money that they have from Alberta when all is said and done, and after our seniors have been paid back, what contributors put into the pension in a year, the CPP's taken the extra money, and of course they've invested it, right? And this is true in the early 2000s. That's when the rules were changed and so on. But the CPP's invested it, and they built up a pile of income, and that pile of income they've built up in large part is generated foremost from Alberta's extra pile of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then, according to the legislation, the CPP legislation, when a province like Alberta wants to leave, the Canadian Pension Plan and start its own Alberta Pension Plan or its own Saskatchewan Pension Plan or its own Ontario Pension Plan, whatever province, they are owed that money, which has been accrued to them by the CPP. And there's a formula for that, which takes a bit of time to explain. Yeah. So we can just say that the formula is clear. LifeWorks takes that formula, interprets it this particular way, and from that generates this $330 plus now billion dollar amount owing to us.
Yeah, and again, so we've got that amount owing back to us. I can't unmute you, Mitch. You'll have to unmute yourself. I'm not sure if you can do that. There you go. No, that's not it. There you go. Now you're good. So, but what I wanted to again discuss is what numbers actually are given into the pension plan by the employers, by the employee. Again, there's a calculation for that. And Mitch, actually, I'll ask Tanner because I'm pretty sure he knows.
Ask Tanner. I got it. I think I got it, but Tanner will have it.
Okay.
Well,
so Tanner,
the numbers are, so every year you and your employer pay 5.95% of your income check to the Canadian Pension Plan. And you do that until, now I can't remember the specific number, but you do that until you earn about $66,000, I think, $1,000. It's somewhere in that area.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then after that, you and your employer, once you've passed that 66,000-ish threshold, you and your employer pay 4% each of your income check to the Canadian Pension Plan until you reach an income of like $73,000 ish.
Yeah.
And so that happens, year after year after year after year as you work. And again, that builds up in the Canadian Pension Plan, right? And after a period of X number of years, when you retire, 65 plus or at 60, whatever you feel like taking your pension, you receive that, or at least, well, I should be more careful. You receive some money from the CPP, whether you receive what would be called an adequate return on your investment or not. People argue. My answer is no, it's not an adequate return. I don't think the CPP gives out enough. I know the CPP was designed to just replace, I think it was a quarter, 25% of your income. And so that's what some apologists of it say. They go, well, it was never supposed to be a big pension plan, at least it wasn't supposed to pay you out a whole lot of money. But I think the proper response to that is, if we can do better, why wouldn't we? Right? If we can pay out more money to seniors and to will-be seniors one day, why would we not do that? Right? Yeah. What are we going to say? Oh, it's replacing 30% of your income or 35% of your income instead of 25%? What a terrible thing, right? Like it's, I'm being sarcastic. If there's any media watching. But anyways, yes. And so that's the calculation. It's about just under 12% between you and your employer. Pay it to the CPP from your income. Do that for 40 years. And then when you retire, you get some money back.
That's right. So, and again, basically works out to be, let's say, about $7,500 a year goes towards your CPP times, 40 years if you're doing that, right? So look, again, we kind of just base it on the number of it. It's about a pool, if you want to call it a pool, but we know it's not a pool, about $300,000.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of the way the math works on that. And that goes in for anybody that's contributing to it. And then they can withdraw, like you said, when they're 60, when they're 65, when they're 70, and it ramps up that way. We have those charts up on our website as well. But what I want to get to is, again, this is the way it's been through, the dawn of the CPP, right? Since 1966, 67, we've always done it this way. And now we have the opportunity to change that. And not only that, but according to the LifeWorks report, we can even save $1,425 per individual and $1,425 for the employer, right? And I was looking at this again today, just kind of wrapping my head around, how much, if you had an extra $1,500 a year that you could do, what would you do with it? Well, you could invest it. You could go buy something material and then have it break after 5 years. And so you've kind of thrown that money away. I think that would be me. But a lot of this stuff, when you look at it from an employer point of view, right? Mitch, how many employees do you have, Mitch?
A dozen.
A dozen? Okay, I was going to say 20, but let's just say that. So even at a dozen, and it's 1,500, you could save 18 grand a year.
Oh, yeah, a year. So a month would be better, but
right?
A year, yes, absolutely.
But
that's a nice holiday.
You are just a small business owner, right?
That's
what
right.
about these corporations that have hundreds, if not thousands of employers or employees?
Yeah.
Why would you think that they would not be so compelled to just say, you know what, I'm more than willing to donate 20 grand to get this thing done? Because in the end, wouldn't it be better for them to do that?
Oh, absolutely. This is the only thing really that if you put money into it, you'll get real money back. And not only that, every month, and for your kids and your grandkids, and for everybody involved. And once it's here, it's here.
Yeah.
And if you start trying to add the interest onto, we're contributing $9 billion a year. Plus, if we have an asset pool of, say, a quarter of $1 trillion, so $250 billion.
Yeah.
That's going to be producing $25 to $30 billion a year in interest as well.
Yeah.
Forever. So yeah, it'll allow you to be wealthier. It'll allow everybody to be wealthier. The old people. It would be better for business if old people had more money to spend. Yeah. Like there's no negatives to it that I can see.
No. Well, and all through this
for the economy of Alberta, no question about it.
Yeah. All through this series, we've been talking about the pros, and you really have to think about what the con of doing this. And we have addressed the elephant in the room about this was that we cannot let the Alberta government take control of this. It has to come in and be at arm's length from the Alberta government in order for this to work. Tanner, do you want to make any comments about that?
You're right. It's correct. Yeah. No matter what government's in power, you have to be independent of it. We don't want government investing on our behalf, right? Because government's objectives are not our objectives, insofar as their objective is not to make money, which is what the objective of a pension is. All right, government wants to stay in power, and they'll do a lot to make sure they stay in power. Yeah. But with regards to a pension, all we want the pension to do is make us money. That's it. Yeah. And make us as much money as possible safely and carefully and wisely. Yeah. So the two institutions then don't harmonize, right? They don't work well together because the objectives of both are different and the reason for the existence of both are different. Thus, like you said, it's imperative that we remain separate. It's why it's not a bad thing that government hasn't given the Alberta Pension Plan group, Mitch's group, money. That's fine because it allows Mitch and those who are working with him to remain independent of government and therefore be able to tell government whatever they feel like. No, that not true. Knowing Mitch, you probably do that regardless. But nevertheless, it acts as a sort of safeguard, both publicly and privately, to ensure that there isn't, government interference behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing about that is, we're talking about hands off our pension, and that's the number one objective of the left. But here's the funny thing. Mark Carney's become part of the Liberal government, appointed, by the way. And his first thing, he wants the government to take $50 billion from the pension fund and let his company manage it at 1.5%, which is $750 million a year. So I guess their hands off our pension. They'll be able to control that money directly that way. And so they're absolutely not doing it. And with the track record of the Liberal government right now, it's pretty much a criminal organization the way they're behaving. So if that's the case, then we're trusting criminals to take care of our money, which is, is a little. I would worry much more about that than our provincial government putting their hands on our pension. Just really.
Yeah.
Because we can talk to our MLAs. I talked to my MLA today. I've never talked to my MP.
Yeah. So here's another thing that I wanted to find out. So we've talked about, how the steps would be. We basically need to get the contact names. We go out and collect these contact names. We need volunteers in order to do that. We need donations in order to do that, to print out sheets and get people involved, software and blah, blah, blah. But when we actually get this 300,000 signatures, 270,000 signatures, what is the process of after that, Mitch? Like here we have a stack of signatures, definitely higher than me.
So I think you're going to have to organize it by CA, and we have the computer program to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to have to collect official signatures in 90 days. So we're going to have to get teams of people going from, in every different CA. There's 87 CAs in Alberta. Yeah. So we would break it into 87 pieces. And hopefully, a day or two in each CA to collect all these signatures is going to be what's required.
Yeah.
I think once people understand what's going on here, I think they'll buy in. And the reality of it is for the last 2 months, we've kind of been a little bit distracted with the Bill of Rights and the AGM coming up. So as soon as the AGM is over, we're firing right back up, and we're going to go flat out back after it again. So we really think this is important because a sovereign Alberta within Confederation, the one thing that we need is to keep, our people are worried about their pensions always. Mm-hmm. So I think we can do better. Like personally, I think it's cost me a ton of money because as a business person, I don't have to opt in. But I really believe had I opted in, I would have made quite a bit more money than.
Oh, for sure.
And it could have gone to my grandkids and kids when I pass.
Yeah, that's true too. Well, and again, the idea is that if we can get it here, we can make those changes. But essentially, it has to come here exactly the same way as the CPP is. And then once it's here, then we can go out and either do a referendum or talk to Albertans and say, what do you want? Do you want a spousal benefit or a death benefit? And if so, how much is that going to cost? But it would be a much better pension plan than the CPP would be, right? Yeah. So, and again, what my point with the steps of what's the next thing. So I did, if people that may be watching this from outside of Alberta, of course, we're basically speaking to Albertans here, but they just started the legislature session again this week. They started yesterday, and under Bill 2, which I've just got up on the screen here, is the Alberta Pension Protection Act. This has already all gone through, but Mitch, maybe you want to just speak a little bit about what this Bill 2 and the Alberta Pension Protection Act was about.
Well, I think that was what caused us to have this referendum.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So no matter what, there was I've been to, I don't know how many meetings in the last month, and I'm sure Mitch, you have been as well. And a lot of people are saying, well, why do we have to do the referendum? Why could we not just go ahead and do this? And it goes back to a speech that Premier Smith said last year that she's basically going to let Albertans make that decision. And instead of actually saying, you know what, when the time is right, we'll just go ahead and do this, she put this into law, essentially under the Alberta Pension Protection Act, which means that we have to have those signatures. We have to have all this in order for this to take place. And I think if there's anything that we lagged on in this entire series was this importance that the reason we're doing this is because this happened, right? We cannot make up our own rules on how we can go ahead and do this. This has already gone through the ledge. It's already said we have to have these numbers of signatures in order to do it. and so we're stuck with that, and really that opens the door to a lot of other things that could possibly happen in going forward too, because anything that we want as Albertans, it seems that we would definitely have to have a citizens initiative or some sort of a referendum in order to get that passed. So again, it's good. It's good because then there's not someone that's going to come in and do absolute power and just automatically do it. But it creates a lengthy, difficult process to get things passed. Because even if we had 300,000 people ready to go right now, we'd have to have those signatures done in a 90-day window. So even if we were ready right now, this thing still wouldn't be put on Danielle's desk probably until the end of January. Right. So this is definitely, it's a long game. It's something that's going to take a little while to do. And I'm glad you touched on that, Mitch, that we've been focused on a couple of other different projects, including the Bill of Rights and what's happening with the AGM. I'm involved in another group as well. I know both of you guys are involved in different things as well. And I really want to commend you guys for being able to do that, because I've been on many calls, many meetings where I'm talking to people, and it's not like everybody has just one focus. I see the same people at different at the same meetings. I see the same people on the same Zoom calls, because we're all the leaders that are trying to get this stuff done. And I think again, I'd like to acknowledge Mitch and Tanner and Vicky and Nicole, who are in the background doing what they do with everything else, planning the meetings. And I mean, it's such a small core group in order to do this. And a lot of people just assume that, well, they must have a big crew of 500, 6,000 people working for them. No, it's a small group. And but we're passionate about what we're doing. And that's kind of what we want, is to educate people and to pass that passion along, and let people know that, yes, there is a better way for Alberta to continue. And this is one of the ways that we can do it, is by a first step of doing our own pension plan. And I know, Mitch, you'll easily say many times, it's like, why hasn't this been a slam dunk? It's definitely been a slam dunk from what we've looked at, right? So
seems to me it'd be way easier. You're trying to give people more money.
Yeah.
It seems to me they'd be lining up to sign and get it moving.
Yeah.
So the Premier could repeal that. She could change that law.
Yeah.
So we don't want to take her completely off the hook.
Yeah. Well, I know Tanner has to disappear. He's got other stuff to get done, because you are a busy guy too. Did you want to have any last comments before? Again, we'll definitely be doing this again. Once that number comes out, we're definitely going to have another one or two of these town halls again. But in the meantime, I know we're going to be doing meetings together. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later too. But is there anything that you want to maybe just leave our viewers with right now?
I have nothing except to keep pushing government. Keep your foot to the floor, and don't let up. Don't give them an inch.
Yeah, that's true. Just get her done. Well, thanks again, Tanner, for popping on. I'm going to stay on with Mitch for probably another 15, 20 minutes anyways. And but in the meantime, yeah, you have a great night, and talk to you later. Thanks.
Great. Thanks a bunch.
Okay.
Right.
So I mean, there's so many other things that I would like to talk about going to discuss what our position would be in terms of the benefits of a pension plan. We've covered a lot in 9 episodes. And again, I encourage anybody to go back and take a look at them. We're going to try and do transcripts on the episodes as well, and push that. So, Mitch, this weekend is the UCP AGM, and again, we've been kind of leading up to that in order to put pressure on the government to say, yes, we're going to go ahead and do this pension. Is there anything that, if anybody is going to the AGM, is there anything that you want to say in terms of like, well, we've set up a table, or we're going to be making speeches, or is there anything going on?
Well, we may not be doing speeches
Okay.
because there's so much going on, and there's so
Yeah.
much. It's become very difficult to get somebody to speak at the AGM if it's not to do with with governance or policy. So, and that's a big job. I think there's going to be 55 or 60 resolutions that they're going to try to pass there. Basically in a half. So, and they have to be debated. So that's a problem. But what we're going to do is we will have a table there. We're going to have cards for everybody when they walk in the door, cards so that they can link up with us and do some investigating and go to our website. Everybody there is going to be fluent in pension talk, so you'll be able to ask questions and they'll be answered. We've got some there's not very many of us, but we're pretty good at what we do. We understand it pretty well.
Yeah. And again, this is a nonpartisan thing. This is great for all Albertans, whether or not. So we're at the UCP AGM, but if we could get to the NDP AGM, I know they don't officially have an AGM, we would be there as well, because it's important to have this conversation with everybody so that everybody realizes the benefits of an Alberta pension plan.
You know what? I don't understand how there could be any opposition to this at all. I mean, it's the propaganda that the federal government gives us. Well, I understand why they oppose it. They just don't want to lose control of that much money, which is totally understandable from their perspective. But as far as we're concerned, as Albertans, both sides of the fence, who doesn't want more money? And a better lifestyle and more secure pension? I mean, I'm sure the federal government pension is secure because they print money. But what if they don't want to use it for that?
No, that's true.
So they could stick it in their own bank accounts, for example.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, right?
We don't have a lot of questions, but if anybody does have questions, please do put them in the comments. I'm going to do that. Michael says, what if some Albertans don't want to be part of an Alberta pension? Can they stay in the CPP?
Do you know what? I've really been through this. You've mentioned I've done a lot of town halls and I've done a lot of meetings. I would really, really like to give the Albertans an opportunity, one chance to opt out.
That's right.
And the reason for that is that it would force them to actually look at the numbers. And that's the reason. I'm positive that once you looked at the numbers and once you understood what was going on, you would have the option to opt out or opt in. And then you could make the choice yourself, which I'm all about democracy, so I'd be all about that. Your portion of the $335 billion could stay in the CPP, and you could collect CPP for the rest of your life, no matter where you lived. And if you wanted more money, then you could collect Alberta pension, no matter where you lived. But only if you've worked here, of course. And then it would be hinging on how many years you work here and all the rest of the formula. But I think an opt-out would be marvelous. It solves lots of problems. It puts the onus on you. Then you don't feel forced, which is also good. I think an opt-out would be a fantastic idea. And actually, I would push it at the government level, given the opportunity.
I agree with you on all of those. The danger would be, and this is just because I've been involved in a couple of different sort of situations where, let's just say employee A goes into the APP, employee B doesn't. 2 years down the road, they have a conversation about their pension plan, just because that water cooler talk, and they find out that the APP is now making like twice as much, and their benefits will be an extra $100 or $200 more at the end of retirement. That I think employee B would be totally pissed off.
Well, choices in life, and some of them cost you money. That I made that decision 40, 50 years ago, and it's cost me a ton of money. So there's no sense complaining about it now. So the thing is that I think the beauty of it is that you would be given the opportunity to choose yourself and make a decision for you and your family moving forward. And I would really, really like to have input on what they do with the pension plan. Like I'd really like to understand, or people to understand, that we could make this so much better. Like really, especially for young people that are moving in, and at the cost of everything, the way things are going, I think more money is going to be good. More money is always good, but in this case, for older people, it would be superb.
Rick just has a blanket statement that says, let's see the numbers. So I'm not sure whether or not he's looking at the LifeWorks numbers, what his actual number would be in the end. Like, is it going to be, I can actually get an extra $100 more a month? Because really that's kind of what it would end up being, right? $1,400 a year is what we would be at least through the LifeWorks report. And again, through the LifeWorks report, I'll just, it's a really long address, but if you go to this page instead, it's the albertapensionplan.ca. I'll throw that up on the banner here just in case you want to write anything down. Right there, albertapensionplan.ca. You can go there. And if you scroll down right into here, you can actually see the report. And you can go to the full report, and then you can actually go through the LifeWorks report, and it does specify. And again, we've done a webinar on, or a town hall on this initially, and what the summary is, what the synopsis is, why would we do this? This is how the money actually works out, and it's pretty detailed in there, and it really just comes down to. Again, this will not be one of those cookie cutter sort of situations where everyone would end up getting the maximum amount, right? And it's almost designed so that almost nobody gets the maximum amount. But the amount of money that you put in, there is a certain number, and that average right now seems to be about $750, maybe shy of $800 per month when you retire. We want to make that number much, much higher. It would be great if we could get it to 1,000, if not more. And it really just depends on how much money is being invested, and where that money is being invested. And one of the things, again, we've talked about in previous webinars is right now we are at the control of the CPP Investment Board, or whatever they happen to call themselves right now. And they are determining where they're investing, and if there's any other situations that deal with what they invest in. So maybe they've got some sort of a DEI requirement, or ESG credits or scores or anything like that in order to actually make this. If it was here in Alberta, we'd be able to say, you know what? No, we don't want that money. We don't want that investment to go to a DEI type of projects. Maybe we don't even want it to go into heavily funded Alberta projects, because that's another thing too, is that the danger, if it is in Alberta, we could say, you know what, we're going to fund all of our Alberta projects, which I think would be great. But other people may say, no, we need to diversify. And I know if Tanner was online, the whole point of doing a pension plan is to maximize the amount of money that you can make. And if you're going to be doing it here in Alberta, there's only going to be so much that we can possibly do. So it would be good to get into various countries and different projects around the world, and then being invested. So, especially
with that amount of money.
With that amount, that is so much money. It's ridiculous, to be quite honest.
Really, it is, yeah.
And it's no wonder that the federal government wants to keep it all to themselves.
If you want to put it in perspective, the province of Alberta has $25 billion right now.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. And actually, we have what's our debt right now, Alberta?
$100 billion. $100 billion.
Yeah.
And
Julie
even
says,
today, they're talking about running deficits so that debt is going to go up.
Yeah. Julie says, we pay into it, so it should be our decision what to do with our retirement money. I agree that we should at least have some say into it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Chris asks, do we not need our own provincial tax department for an APP? Premier Smith has stated she does not want a provincial tax department, as it will cost $1.5 billion to set up. That is a whole other conversation that we are going to be probably talking about tomorrow on an Alberta Prosperity Project webinar, if anybody wants to chime in on that. Or we're going to try and keep this conversation just to pension on this. But there's a lot, when there's government, there's a lot of other moving cogs in the wheel. And so the question of, do we not need our own provincial tax department for an APP? We don't, but would certainly make things easier.
But imagine the benefits to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine collecting all our own taxes like Quebec does.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, you can basically, I mean, you're getting charged a certain amount, but it would be much easier for our healthcare if we didn't have to send all that money over there and then they send the money back. And in the
Yeah.
meantime, they blackmail us with it and saying, if you don't do this, then
Yeah.
you aren't going to get your healthcare money. And that's legit. That
Yeah.
just recently happened.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that, and also you collect your own EI. We overcontribute by $1 billion a year on EI. There's lots going on there that we could make ourselves richer. Absolutely, no question.
And just
and
the
employ
simple,
people and contribute to the economy of the province. The other thing that could happen here is $1.5 billion is not a big chunk of $335 billion.
No, that's right too. And that's all it is just to set it up. It's a one-time payment, right? And how much would it cost to actually run that per year? I don't know, maybe 100 million. I'm not even sure what the actual number would be, but yes, it costs a lot to set something up, but once it's set up, then it's okay. And don't forget, right at the beginning, when we were talking about this the summary of this whole pension plan thing, we do over contribute $3 to $5 billion a year. So with that over contribution, we have that 1.5 billion to set it up. So little FYI. Yeah.
And FYI, it costs $4.5 billion to run a Canada pension right now. A year.
Yeah.
And half of that is our money.
That's right. Yeah. So you can do the math on that.
So there you go.
Yeah. So that's 2 billion. 2 billion. We could still do our own taxes. We could probably do some more healthcare stuff just with the money that we save. Anyways, that's a whole, again, other conversation. But you can see how pension is a good first step into doing all of this stuff on our own. And that's kind of why I got involved, because to me, having conversations with Mitch and others, it really was like, we should be able to hit this ball right out of the park. And it should happen, and it could happen fairly quickly. And it's just not right now. And that's not for lack of trying. I think that's just, we need to get the education portion bigger. And like we said, once the AGM is done and we've got some more time, we are going to be going out and doing meetings again, and getting the word out in different ways. But this series, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Thanks, Mitch, for joining us on this as well. And again, once we get that number back from LifeWorks, we're going to be doing this again. And that'll be an interesting episode to see exactly what we would end up doing with that. So
could you imagine if they said, "Okay, we'll give you $350 billion to the province of Alberta"? That would be a pretty exciting event. That would be a good evening. That would be a good Zoom.
Oh, yes, absolutely would. Any last things that you want to say right now, Mitch? Obviously, this will not be your final words because we will be back and doing this again. But anything you want to just leave our viewers with right now?
I think if you're interested in Canada Pension, you can help us out in lots of ways. You can help us by volunteering. You can help us by donating. You can help us by showing up at meetings and bringing people to meetings. I think that's basically what it's going to take. And once you understand, by talking to your neighbors and friends and getting them pumped on the fact that we can make more money with our own pension. Yeah, that's true. So once again, if you want to find out more, please go check out our website, albertafirstpension.ca. Lots of material there, lots of things to print out. By all means, print it out, take a look at it, and if you agree with it or whatever, pass it on to your neighbor, pass it on to family and friends. It doesn't take much to actually go and talk to your neighbors about this, or maybe even just print off a couple of the cards and stuff it in their mailboxes. That would certainly help us out, because then it saves us on copy. I know it costs you, but if everybody was able to, at least, if you can't donate, you can't donate $50 or whatever, then go out and do $5 in printing, and then help us out that way. And we don't even need to know about it. We just know that the numbers will come in because people will be signing up for us. Again, just by going right to the website and going right on to the sign up here. Just click on there. Really easy, and then we will get back to you once we've got the numbers that we want. So
I think that's kind of all I wanted to say on this episode. So, and share. Julie says, and share. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, good. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up. And so that's the end of the series, the end of the 10 episodes. But as soon as we get the number, we will be sending out our social media. And likewise, the other thing I do want to say is that on our website, we do have links to social media. Right near the bottom, we are on various things. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, etc. And as this movement grows, we'll be expanding even further. But that's where you can go and get lots of different information on all this stuff. So there you go. And with that, I'm now going to say good night, and you guys have an amazing rest of your week. And if you're around at the AGM, please do come and say hi. I'm going to be bouncing around in a bunch of different tables. Mitch will be there, and we hope to see you guys there and have some good conversation too. So with that, I'm going to say, okay, good night.